Welcome everybody to 200 Days in an Underwater World. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys check the link down in the description to the first 100 days. But yes, this entire world is completely flooded. The whole world is underwater, and I'm attempting to survive in it. And in this video, I'm going to set some goals. I want to raid an ocean monument, beat the Wither boss, and resurrect the dragon, as well as do some expansions on the underwater base. And as always, guys, this video was an insane amount of work, so if you do enjoy it, make sure you guys smash that like button to let me know you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe to join the Paulgg army if you guys have not already. And also, the new Astro Paulgg merch is available. I'll have a link down in the description as well. So definitely go check it out, guys, and let's get into the video. And day 101. Now that we're back in the underwater world, it's time to go pay my respects to Kevin and Chickpea. And honestly, Chickpea's looking a little tasty right now, I'm not gonna lie. That's also because I'm slowly running out of food and I'm starving. Maybe it's about time I started on making a farm so I can be able to have food forever. I decided to rearrange the storage area so I could be able to add some doors and a brand new hallway, just like the one I made on the other side for the tree farm. Then it was time to start making the outline for the new underwater bubble. And man, I've gotten pretty good at making these circles actually. But finally, after terraforming and drowning myself, the outline was finished. Now all I gotta do is start building up the bubble. But I almost immediately ran out of glass, so it looks like I'm gonna need a whole lot more sand. So on day 102, that's exactly what I did. I shoveled my life away. Yep, nothing too exciting. But on day 103, it's time to start smelting down all that sand. That is until I got interrupted by an intruder, and he didn't look too smart because he fell for the boat trap immediately. Comment down below some names for this guy, and I'll pick one and give him a name tag in the next 100 days. I figured while waiting for all this sand to smelt, I could go pick up the librarian villager that we abandoned out in the ocean, because I was curious to see if he's going to sell some bookshelves, since I'm going to need a whole lot of those for an enchantment room, and honestly that's probably going to be the easiest way to get them. And after boating all the way out, it turns out he actually does sell them, so I wrangled him in my boat, and oh, look at that, look at the farmer villager, he just looks so sad. I'm taking away his only friend. Oh well, and after getting home, I dropped my librarian all the way down the chute into his new home. And don't worry guys, on day 104 I boated all the way back out to go get my farmer. I figured why not, considering I'm making a farm anyways. I could be able to use a farmer to be able to also get some more emeralds. But after returning home and dropping him all the way down the chute, it was time to finish the giant bubble. I went around and around and around this thing all the way around until it was finally enclosed. And since I only have one sponge still, I figured the easiest way to drain this thing is to just chop it in half with dirt and start placing my sponge everywhere. And so that's what I did. Tons and tons of times. But after doing that, it was finally empty. Then I went to go celebrate with the boys, but we had another freeloader pull up. And I'm already housing too many people, so yeah, he had to show the way out. But that's when I looked back at the bubble and noticed that there was a ton of mobs in it because I forgot to put down any torches. I slowly started chipping away at all of them, but unfortunately when getting rid of a creeper, it lagged, and I swear I hit this creeper, but it popped my bubble. And so guess what I'm doing on day 113? Yeah, that's right. If you guessed being depressed and fixing the bubble, you are correct. But on days 114 to 115, now that the farm's all set up, I just need some crops to plant. So I made my way over to the nearest village in hopes that it would have any sort of crops left. And looky here, I'm in luck because I managed to get some. After getting home, I initiated Farmer Paul and began planting all the crops I currently have, which is basically like nothing. So while waiting for all the crops to grow, I'm definitely going to need some more light in here, so I decided to make a chandelier. But on my way over to the tree farm to get some wood, I noticed that the farmer Joe was disappeared. He wasn't in the house and he wasn't in the tree farm, and that's when I realized that he must have swam up the water elevator. And after boating around for a little while, I managed to find the little runaway. Look here, buddy, I'm going to give you a good life. Just don't leave me, okay? And now that I got him home and set up a job in hopes that he'll never run away again, it's finally time to build out that chandelier. And honestly, I have no idea how to make a chandelier in Minecraft, so I just started slapping some fences together and hung some lanterns, and I think it looks a-okay. And on days 116 to 118, I just spent the entire time running around in the nether for a couple reasons, actually. I wanted to get some bones for bone meal for the farm, because I'm way too impatient to wait for it all to grow. But I also need a whole lot of coal since I'm smelting down a ton of glass. And what better way to get those two things than to hunt down a bunch of withers? And I wanted to get some skulls anyways for summoning the wither boss. Water. Which not too long into the hunt, I managed to find a FaZe Clan bone block, which that actually reminded me that bone blocks were even a thing in Minecraft. Well, that solved that bone meal problem. Anyways, if you guys watched the first 100 underwater days, you know that my nether fortress is actually two nether fortresses that are like spaghetti together and spawned right next to each other. So running into withers was definitely no problem at all. I actually found a ton of them. But the only downside is that I actually only have looting 2 on my sword. So it took a whole lot of withers just to be able to even get 2 wither skulls. But while running around, I also did manage to find more chests with more diamonds and such in it. So I'd call this a successful trip, other than the fact that I'm running out of food and I need to go home. In day 119, it's time to put down the blood-stained armor and put on my farmer hat, because it's time to grow all these crops. This also when I actually found out that apparently you can't plant things within certain light levels, and that needs to be bright enough to be able to plant stuff, and apparently my chandelier isn't even bright enough. But after some quick fixes with some torches, it all worked out. My main goal is to pretty much just make the farm 90% just out of potatoes, because, well, I mean, it's literally the best food source, and you cannot change my mind. I'll be 100p with you right now. And on day 120, now that I got a ton of food going, it's time to begin my villager army. And since the farmer ran off to go to work, that means that it's all up to Kevin and the librarian. And I figured instead of letting a bunch of baby villagers just run around, I'd just boat trap every single one of them, so I don't gotta worry about them. They're so annoying. After that, I'm getting back on my grind, selling a ton of potatoes so that I can be able to buy more bookshelves. But man, these things are expensive. This is gonna take a while. And on day 121, I started off the day by mining out where I'm gonna be putting the new enchantment room. Well, for now that is, because I'll probably end up moving it at some point. And I decided to work on some other projects while waiting for Farmer Joe to be able to buy more of my potatoes. I decided to start prettying up the staircase that goes all the way down to the mine shaft. Then I'd trade more potatoes, and then I'd get back down to the mine shaft. Then I'd chop down some trees, but it was an endless cycle. But I started to get too impatient. So on days 122 to 123, I figured that it would just be easier if I just bred some more villagers so I could be able to make more farmers. The only downside is that I need more wool to be able to make more beds. So it's time to go find some sheep floating around the ocean. Luckily, I managed to find the first one pretty easily. He was just floating around in the village nearby. So I brought him all the way back home and fenced him in. And the second sheep though, God, this one took a long time. I was boating around for a long time before I finally realized that pretty much the only animals I'm ever seeing are ones that actually just spawn at villages. So then I began checking all the villages nearby that I knew of, which is where I managed to finally find my next sheepers. I hate myself sometimes. There was also some hay bales in the village, but before I was able to get them, I had to fight the guardian. Then after getting back with my second sheepers, I bred them to begin my infinite supply of wool. And on day 124, I started off the day by giving my new sheepers a haircut. Then I decided this floating zoo is looking pretty cool, so I wrangled up some cows. But after boating the second cow all the way over, I realized that the sheep actually can't float here because they need to eat grass to be able to get their wool back. Which also means I'm going to need to get some silk touch. So now we're back on the grind for the enchantment table. I managed to set up another farming villager so that I could be able to sell them some more potatoes. And I was able to finally sell through all my stockpile of potatoes that I had, so I could be able to buy tons of bookshelves. But it still wasn't going to be enough. And I'm not going to sit around waiting for all these potatoes to grow. So I spent some time in the nether so I could be able to mine up tons of bone blocks, because I figured that the fastest way to getting all these potatoes is going to just manually farm them, which is exactly what I did. I just spam placed a ton of potatoes, growing them, chopping them down, selling them, until I managed to finally have enough bookshelves for an enchantment room. Now that we got all that out of the way, I got to spend a little bit of time prettying this up. I mean, again, this probably isn't even going to be a permanent room anyways. I'm probably going to end up moving it, but I don't need no eyesores in my house other than Kevin. Day 129, it was finally time to enchant the rest of my gear, which actually worked out pretty well. I managed to get Fortune 2 on my pickaxe and then also Fortune 2 on my axe. Okay. Also got protection on my armor, and I finally got Aqua Affinity on my helmet. That was a big W. On days 130 to 139, with this newly acquired magic, I figured it was finally time to build an XP farm, so that I could be able to continue enchanting without even having to worry about levels. So I decided to make a classic mob grinder, but this time I decided to make it all the way underground. So I made my way down to the mine shaft where I was going to build this beast. It sounds kind of weird building this thing underground, because most of the time you just build it above ground and you don't even really got to worry about it. But you got to remember that literally all the caves underground are full of water, so the only mobs that should be spawning down here are ones inside of my mob grinder. That, and also mining this thing out, I'm going to get a ton of stone, which is I'm going to need that later anyways, but also a lot of resources. But finally, after mining my life away, I managed to clear out the entire thing, and all all I needed to do was add some water and place down some trapdoors. And so far this thing seems like it's working pretty well. Day 140, I crafted up some hoppers and chests and added them to the mob grinder. So when I'm hacking away at this thing, I don't gotta worry about juggling all the items. And that's pretty much what I did. I just spent most of the day just hacking away, beating down a ton of mobs. It was a nice, peaceful day. And on day 141, I remember that I didn't enchant my bow and trident yet. I really want to get Riptide on my trident. So after many attempts at trying to get Riptide, I gave up and managed to get Infinity on my bow in the first try. But then I ran out of lapis trying to get Riptide again, so it's time to hit the mines. And after some mindless swimming around in some caves, I managed to find some diamonds. And then shortly afterwards, all the lapis that I would need. Now it's time to hit the enchantment table again, which I ended up using pretty much all my levels because the only enchantment that it would keep giving me is loyalty over and over. I mean, like, I get it, this Triton's loyal, but all I wanted was Riptide, which I eventually got, but it was just Riptide 1, which is, it's better than nothing. Days 142 to 163, it was time to do some huge expansions on the base, because honestly I just hate living out of a small base. But also I want to start making some villager traders, and there's no way I'm gonna have a bunch of villagers running around in my house. So I began terraforming the land behind the base, but that's when I realized that when I got Aqua Affinity earlier, I thought I got respiration, so I was hoping I'd be able to breathe underwater longer. Yeah, I know I got a pretty large brain. So I went back inside to attempt to re-enchant for respiration, and you guys know how my luck is. Fire protection, yay. Afterwards, I decided that I was going to build out a diagonal hallway stretching from the main base all the way to a new bubble. Now this bubble, I have no idea what it's going to be yet, but it's definitely going to be something. And after finishing up with that first bubble, I decided to mirror the exact same thing but on the other corner of my base. And while building it, I was trying to make it as symmetrical as possible so that I could be able to do something else with the base later, but spoilers, it isn't. And then for the last part of this big expansion, and possibly the most important part, I decided that I want to build a giant bubble in the middle. And this bubble is pretty much going to be where all my villagers are going to be living and working until I'm just not lazy and I actually build a proper trading hall. Luckily, I've become a pro building all these bubbles underwater, so this big expansion actually went pretty smoothly. Day 164 to 167, now it's time to go raid an ocean monument. Because now I'm pretty geared and there's no way I'm going to go drain all these new bubbles with only one sponge. The only thing is that the only monument that I know of is really far away, but I managed to save a bunch of time using my Triton and Elytra combo. Shortly after jumping into the monument, I managed to find the gold room pretty fast, so naturally, before I get miner's fatigue, I went ahead and scooped all that up. And I swam around for a while trying to find the opening to where I could be able to find the 2 Elder Guardians, since I already did slay one of them in the last 100 days. But I managed to find the sponge room instead, and might I say, this is a rather thick sponge room. Luckily, shortly after, I managed to actually find the first Elder Guardian. And honestly, this is my least favorite room to fight him in. Just something about having all this space to swim around, and it freaks me out. I always have this fear that I'm going to drown in this world, and that's going to be the way it's going to end. But luckily, I managed to give him the hands, and since I beat the Elder Guardian in this room, I actually knew exactly where the next one was going to be. So I was able to quickly navigate my way over there. The only downside is that I pretty much have no doors. But luckily for this guy, I only needed one door. And now that all the Elder Guardians are all taken care of, all I gotta do is sit around and wait for the miner's fatigue to go away. Yep. Just waiting. But now that all that waiting's over with, I was able to swim over to the sponge room and get all the sponges and just enjoy life. Oh, it's so nice. Day 168 to 169. We're back at home and it's time to get to draining all these bubbles. Now this is a literal dream come true. I want to tell you guys right now, using all these sponges compared to what I was dealing with before just using one, I feel like I could drain the entire ocean right now. It saved me so much time. And while draining out all these bubbles, I actually managed to find an invisible spider. And I tried to catch him in a boat like I do with most things in this world. He just wouldn't comply though. I don't know if spiders can not get in a boat. I've actually never even seen one in a boat. So I had to give him the hands and put him down. And now that all the bubbles are all drained out, and all I gotta do is change out all the floors and get them ready for use. So I grabbed some bone meal, went in the tree room, and began chopping down tons of trees. Now that we're fully stocked up on wood, it was time to lay down hundreds of slabs. And man, this underwater base is actually turning out pretty cool. I'm kind of vibing with it. Day 171, it was finally time to go get the villagers all set up in their bubbles so that they could start popping out some hard-working babies. So I went up to the surface and bred and sheared my sheep, since pretty much the only way for me to be able to get wool right now is by breeding the sheep. And then I crafted up all the beds that I could and then proceeded to throw hundreds of potatoes at my villagers. Don't worry though, they enjoy those potatoes. And on day 172, I continued to breed the villagers. And I figured in the meantime, I could move the enchantment room into one of the big old bubbles. I mean, I did tell you guys I was gonna be moving it. Then I decided to go buy another looting 2 book to be able to add on to my sword and turn it into looting 3, because I'm also going to be needing that later anyways. Afterwards, I decided I'm going to be pretty impatient. I don't want to wait for all the baby villagers to grow up. So I decided to give Kevin the most important job a villager can have, being the mending villager. Since mending is really one of the rarest and most valuable trades that a villager can have. But it just took forever for him to give it to me. He offered me tons of good things. I was passing up on respiration and silk touch. I had to put all my desires aside to actually get what I really needed. And it wasn't until day 173 finally gave me the mending trade. Then I had to go trade tons and tons of potatoes just to be able to get enough emeralds, so I could be able to finally buy that mending book. And I know most people are probably thinking, oh, throw it on the shovel, it's about to break. But personally, I always prioritize my pickaxe. Besides, I mean, it's a shovel. I mean, it's literally just a big spoon. It costs like 1 diamond to make. If it breaks, I'll just make a new one. On days 174 to 182, it's time to begin the long journey of trying to get my last wither skull. I knew I was going to be unlucky, but I really did not expect it to take this long just to get 1 wither skull. I had to fight tons and tons of wither running around the fortress, and it's a good thing I brought some golden carrots for all that saturation. It was ridiculous. I honestly feel like I probably should have just put mending on my sword, because I really had to fight a lot of withers. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to make a wither farm before ever doing this again. But at least I finally got my last skull that I was gonna need. And on day 183, I finally decided to turn the other bubble into an auto smelting room. I figured that I'm just gonna slowly clear out the house area and turn a bunch of bubbles into all the priority rooms. Priority rooms? Rooms in which I can use. I set up some blast furnaces for all the resources that I gotta smelt down. I even set up some regular furnaces for all the stone that I'm gonna be cooking, and even some smokers for all them succulent potatoes I'll be eating later. And on day 184, I spent the day pretty much just preparing to finally fight the wither boss. I decided to grindstone down my Triton in hopes of being able to get a better Riptide, which may have ended up being a mistake. No, I'm just kidding. I actually managed to get Unbreaking, Impaling, and Riptide 2, which is a whole lot better than just having Riptide 1 all by itself on a Triton. Then I hit up my potato boys and sold tons and tons of potatoes so I could be able to buy another mending book. And then I threw that mending book on my Triton. Afterwards, I made my way downstairs to the mob grinder so I could be able to actually repair it too. The last thing I was going to do to really prepare for this fight is to craft up some golden apples. Yeah, I'm probably not going to need them anyways. I was very wrong. Now I know I could have beaten the wither boss easily underground. It wouldn't have been any sort of an issue. But I do gotta flex that I'm Poseidon, the king of the sea. So I decided to fight it above ground and travel really far away from the base just in case if anything happens. I got all set up and I crafted up the demon. Well, that is actually, I forgot 1 soul sand, so I had to go home and go get another one. But now it's finally time to summon it. And honestly, it's been so long since I fought this thing. At first, the battle was close. I was going through my gapples pretty fast, but it was a lot of back and forth health trading. But I didn't realize how much of the withering effect I was actually tanking. And after running out of gapples, it was pretty clear that I wasn't going to be winning this fight right now. I decided that it would probably be best if I just retreated for now with my bruised ego. And instead, I devised a plan. I made my way into the nether so I could be able to go all the way over to the Bridges Bastion that we saw out in the lava field in the first 100 days, because I'm going to get a ton of gold to be able to craft up a ton of golden apples. And what better way than just literally free gold sitting out here on a silver platter. After that, I made my way into the tree room where I was going to grow and chop down tons and tons of trees to be able to get all the apples to turn into gapples. This was probably the more time consuming part now looking back on it. Then I also hit the farm so I could be able to do tons of trades so I could be able to buy yet another mending book. This time though to put on my elytra so I could be able to heal it all the way up at the mob grinder just in case if I needed it during the wither boss fight. Because who knows, I might have to take this fight airborne. And finally on day 192, today is the day to slay the beast. I decided that since he clearly doesn't like to go underwater, even when he's during his shield phase and he's supposed to get really close to you and chase you, and apparently the only time he goes underwater is when he's just AFKing sitting there, I decided to build a really long bridge so that just in case I need to jump out of the water and start meleeing him down, I can actually be at a certain height that he could be able to reach me. And after that, it was time to start the fight. Managed to get a good system going. I had some good rhythm. Used my Triton to be able to kite the wither boss, where I was able to land a couple arrows and doing that over and over, so I wasn't tanking too much of the withering effect. However, I was getting really into the fight to the point that I accidentally hit my stop recording button. Yeah, I know I'm probably gonna have a lot of people really mad at me. I'm sorry. The fight got really intense and I was getting really into it and I must have hit my hotkey. Got a little bit dicey in some parts. I'd use a lot of my gapples, but regardless though, we are the victors. And on day 193, I spent the day just flying around in the nether trying to fight a bunch of gas, so I can be able to get a bunch of gas tiers so I can finally resurrect the dragon. And man, I gotta tell you, if you guys are gonna hunt down some gas, make sure you're doing it with a looting sword. It really saves you a lot of time fighting these gas. The only downside though to this is the fact that I don't have any fireworks yet because I haven't been able to find any sugarcane. But one day I'll find sugarcane and life will be so much easier. But now that I finally got all the gas tiers I was gonna need, it was time to craft up all the end crystals. And I got ready to go head out. That is until Farmer Joe followed me up the water elevator. But after wrangling him back down the tube and reminding him that he's not allowed to leave, I set off to go to the stronghold. And by that, I mean I literally flew in the wrong direction. It's been a little while since I've gone to the stronghold. I'm gonna go ahead and blame that one on Farmer Joe for distracting me. Yeah, no, I waste a lot of time. But after I started going in the right direction, I finally made it to the stronghold. But unfortunately, again, I managed to get crazy lost on this thing since it's literally an underwater maze. And I forgot last time I was here to dig up in the portal room so I could be able to have easy access to the portal. Luckily though, I did manage to find some old clues that'll lead me to the portal room. And I finally jumped in and it was time to summon the dragon. Yeah, I'll be honest. Fighting the dragon right after fighting the wither boss is it's dramatically different. Like the wither boss is like definitely 10 times harder than the dragon. But regardless, we finally managed to achieve all of our goals for this video, and that is the sun setting on day 200. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys smash that like button to let me know that you guys want more of this 100 days in an underwater world. Also, don't forget to comment down below some names for the zombie piglin friend. Also, be sure to check the link in the description for the new Paulgg merch at paulgg.shop. And for now, I'll see you guys in the next one.